Are you ready to move from an ordinary life to an extraordinary one where you meet your business goals, create a life that has success in health, wealth, and for self? Then come and join us for our retreat in Byron Bay, Australia at the end of July, start of August 2025, and come and rediscover who you really are. More details can be found at willowhealing.org.
Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and I'm here today with Roxanne Chaput, who is a globally renowned luminary leader, speaker, and creatrix. Roxanne is known as an acclaimed sacred one, a powerful visionary celebrated for creating sacred spaces, weaving and anchoring ancient intergenerational legacies through unifying and forging multifaceted healing elements within one's multidimensional conscious leadership. We're going to have to unpack this quite a lot. And Roxanne cultivates revolutionizing embodied creational pathways to effective healing and transformational change throughout all of humanity. So a big welcome, Roxanne.
Thank you for having me, Catherine. I'm really excited just to kind of jump in and see where we go.
So I guess the biggest thing is, what is this that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was called to come and step into my own full embodied multidimensional healing and to kind of help, humanity understand the whole multidimensional complexity of who they are so that they could effectively heal, not just, at the physical, mental, emotional, energetic, but all of it coming into that succinctment, into that synergetic alignment, into that harmonic resonance of coming back into that state of inner peace and inner stillment. And healing not meaning fully curing, obviously, as we know, but healing as, accepting and being in a place of receivership of what is actually being shown and revealed to us and how to move from those places. A lot of what I do is a lot of speaking engagements, things of that nature, a lot of stewardship, leadership with conscious leaders, bringing them back to that place of not just serving from, the mind and the heart, but serving from the mind, heart, and the soul and everything that they've, agreed to come here for. So the creatrix piece is having androgynous energy. So being very harmonic within my feminine and my masculine energy so that I can create more for my life and that related consciousness to, creator, God, universe, whoever that kind of is in terms of that higher power. For me, it's creator God, who is, it's the yin and the yang, it's the feminine energy, it's the masculine energy, and it's coming back into that unison, coming back into that place of inner stillment.
Running a company, running a business, and I had to shut down almost that feminine thing. Well, I thought I had to. I didn't have to. I didn't realize at the time. And all I wanted to do was kind of be this nurturing, caring person. And I almost felt like I had to shut this out. And then I've gone the other extreme now where it's just super feminine, but it's like, no, when we're in the middle, that is when we get the truest balance and can move forward from that.
Yeah, and that's where we're in our creator creatrix energy, right? Where we actually manifest and we create so much more powerfully because we're at peace with all aspects of ourselves, right? All shadow aspects. It's about that reparenting into the masculine structure of, the patriarchy of what we see isn't actually healthy masculine. It's not about, you know, about a place of saying, oh, this is wrong or this is right or anything of that nature, but where do we feel that we're bringing in value into our life and where do we feel that we can rise to our highest alignment? When we're in our masculine energy, it doesn't mean that have to be in a hustle mentality. It's about coming back to protection. It's coming back to a state of structure. It's coming back to the state of our own significant being, right? And that feminine energy is all about that creatrix energy. It's about that fluidity, that flow in that being and feeling safe in order to be in that. And in order to be safe in that, that's where we actually affect the most healing because we're actually feeling safe within all of our bodies to actually receive the healing that our body is actually able to self-actualize.
Yeah. And I so love that you said that because we all have that healing power within us. It's just we've forgotten, and we've often, society has kind of conditioned us to give our power away with healing and to put it in the hands of others where our DNA is actually programmed to self-heal, and it's just we've forgotten how to do that.
Yeah, and this is like, the dichotomy of this knowledge is that we refer to others as healers, but in reality, we are the healer. Like we are the healer within ourselves. And, our physical body is a testament to that. It's, when we have a surgery or when we have a wound on our physical body, the cellular disposition of the body knows how to regenerate itself and come back into regenesis and to come back to a place of healing. So does our emotional body, so does our mental body, and so does our spiritual and energetic body, but it's learning the mastery of how to do that, right? A lot of the time it's unlocking the pineal gland, it's unlocking all of the centers of intelligence that happen throughout the body so that we can actually affect true healing and we're not in a superficial or an ego state of healing where we just think, when we look at Western medicine, it's a lot about the mental body and the physical body. That's it. The emotional body doesn't take precedence. The energetic body doesn't take precedence. And then we wonder why we can't affect true healing or why we have to band-aid things or why we have to add pharmaceuticals in order to be able to actually heal. But in reality, we all have the internal medicines within us to actually do that.
Yeah, definitely. And I like how you put it as well that it's our cellular system just regenerates and reprograms itself. And I often feel that it's that, when we start going to that stress state, that is really where the breakdowns happen. Because if we don't ever tell our body, I still remember years ago, I was doing this, met this Bowen therapist, and he said, if you never tell your body that it's safe again after a traumatic experience, it will constantly stay in this fight, flight, freeze mode, and you're never going to feel safe, and your body can never heal.
And that's where we hear a lot of, coming into stewardship or at our retreats is that they feel like they've been in survival mode, like even in running a business, that survival mode, right? The survival mode of the monetary exchange in order to be able to provide for your family. There's always this underlying survival mode. And a lot of, I've heard a lot of, specialists and, speakers mention about fear, but fear is really actually nothing to do with it. It's actually a deep suited, like that deep rooted sadness that kind of emanates of, if this doesn't happen, what is actually going to orchestrate, what will be the next pattern of behavior that could orchestrate itself, right? So when we think about everything that what we are, and if we don't tell ourselves that we're safe and that that we're okay and that we're able to receive the healing that our body is willing to embark on, then we're actually creating the resistance, and we're creating that very resistance and keeping our body in a state of panic, of stress, of survivorship, where we're not actually in a place of surrender, trust, and knowingness, where we're allowing everything to be guided and coming into that synergetic alignment, that harmonic alignment, and bringing all the bodies back in together as one. It's the mind fighting the body. It's the emotional body fighting the body. It's not working in succinct. It's not working in collaboration. It's working, in segregation.
Yeah, and I guess that's where when you come back to that homeostasis and that balance, that's truly where you can. I don't like using the word balance because it's never a perfect balance depending on what situation you're in. Yeah, but at the same time, I feel that's the easiest way for us to visualize it. When you have that balance within yourself, within that masculine, feminine, within the energy bodies, then you're in alignment, and then you can enter in that flow state. But you can't get to that flow state without a little bit of stress. You still need something to motivate you to keep going. Otherwise, you're just going to be like, oh, I'm just going to sleep all day.
Yeah. Well, it's that activation and that triggering, and it's being able to be in the embodiment of the now without having distress, and knowing that you actually don't need distress to actually survive and elevate within your own consciousness and within your own elevation of your own healing of your body, right? Those activations and those triggers are the learning lesson. They're the experience that needed to happen in order to orchestrate. It's like a domino effect, right? You hit the domino and all of a sudden the dominoes start going down. It's that same exact, perception of that, because when we think about how we heal, we don't actually need to be in a high state of stress. We don't actually need to be in a state of distress. And the more that we learn to come to surrender, trust, and know that we're going to be okay, even, as we go through any element in life, even if it's something to do with our own, body element, or if it has something to do with an external event, it's to always come back to that place so we're not living in a state of chaos or a place of separation, or we're not living in a place of dis-ease, right? Of that disease, of that comfort. and we're not living in a place of silos, right? Of segregation, where we're segregating ourselves and saying that I need this in order to actually activate change, when in reality, that is not the truth.
Yeah, and I like that you brought it back to that disease in the body too, because a lot of people don't realize that our emotions and our body are actually giving us signs as to what isn't in alignment with our soul, and it's not allowing us to. It's when we stuff down those emotions instead of, I say, feel it to heal it, right? So instead of
Yeah.
stuffing down those emotions and allowing it to come up and see what messages it has for you, we're so good at shoving it in a box at the back of our brain. And I often think of, Inside Out, and they have the memory dump, and they just, yeah, and they just dump it out there. And my son goes to me, he goes, "Oh, can I just dump a memory?" I'm like, "You can, but maybe just say why you're dumping it first, you know?"
And it's so funny, but it's also so true. And when it comes to our emotional body, our emotions are energetic motions, and that means that they hold energy, they hold frequency, and they hold vibration.
Mm.
So how they resonate in the body actually impacts the body, right? Any part of the body, the mental body, the emotional body, the centers of intelligence that we have within us, which a lot of people refer to as the chakra system. They're actually computing, systems that have neural pathways that actually make decisions and, you know, create, and we emanate, and we have frequency that comes out of all of these centers of intelligence along with our meridian. So when we think about the energy that an emotion has, there's no such thing as actually a suppression. It's a pressurization of the emotion. We take that emotion, we push it, we push it, we push it, we push it. But what ends up happening is that at some point, the pressurization is so impactful, like a pressure cooker, where that emotion, the energetic motion, either goes into a part of the tissue, goes into a part of the body, or it releases itself and it transmutes itself into a different emotional body, which could be anger, resentment, frustration, all of these elements, or depression or anxiety. That's because we're not actually dealing with the emotional body. We're not sitting and we're not feeling through the emotional body because we're telling ourselves that we're not allowed to feel the emotion. And in order to heal through something, doesn't matter if it was a physical event or if it was, a psychological event, the impact is to be able to feel and have the discernment to be able to feel, to grieve through the process so that we can actually relinquish and release and come back to that state of inner peace.
Yeah, and feeling it is so important, because if we don't feel it, and when you said like the pressure cooker, I use the analogy like for anger, right? Like you push it down, and then you're just going to erupt like a volcano, because you'll just have one person say something to you, and it doesn't even have to be something big. It can just be like a little push, and that is enough to send you into this spiral. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that person is a horrible person or anything. They might have just said something so little as like, "Where did you put my shoes?" And and that's enough to send you in that spiral, and then they unfortunately get the wrath.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, anger is really, along with fear, it's a secondary emotion. The principal emotion is sadness, right? When we come back to the root of all anger, it's something that had happened, that transpired, that evoked a deep, deep emotional body state, which is the deepest state is sadness, right? That's the reality of what it is. When we don't deal with that sadness, when we don't allow ourselves to cry, when we don't allow ourselves to process, and we build it up and we build it up and we build it up, it can only go somewhere. It has to release itself somehow. And sometimes, somebody is caught in, the crossfire of that, which is really unfortunate. There's this element again, right, where it brings it back to why am I actually angry? What am I actually angry about? It's actually not about the shoes and the thing. It's because maybe my voice wasn't being heard, or maybe I felt like my voice didn't matter, or I'm not valued, or I'm not worthy. It comes back to these foundational pieces of their belief system that actually impacts the way that they react within the emotional body. And once the emotional body understands, it's like a barometer. So once it understands, when you're a baby and you're crying to be fed, your body naturally goes through an emotional body response in order to see how it's going to react with that emotion, and then it becomes a pattern of behavior. So it's about disrupting, and it's about breaking that pattern and that cycle so that we're not projecting onto other people, and we're not, angry and volatile and, projectile and vomiting everybody, our emotional body onto everybody. It's about being accountable and being responsible for who we are as people.
Yeah, and that's such a powerful point. And even when you were saying with babies, it's funny because there's so many theories about, when babies cry, how it should be treated. And from my perspective, being a speech pathologist, like background of that, I'm like, that's how they communicate. They don't have a voice yet, and responding to a baby crying is really important because it's also establishing trust and it's establishing, okay, I can use my voice to get what I want. And if we ignore that, then it's creating deeper patterns of, that safety and that sort of thing. And then it's then to go through and essentially, oh, well, I can't use my voice to get what I want because it never worked even when I was a child.
Yeah, and it's that distress, right? It's that
Mm.
initiated distress, and it doesn't mean that a baby's never going to cry. And that's just their exactly that's their communication pathway of how they say if something's wrong with them or if they have a foundational need, a primary need that they need in order to survive, right? That's they need love, they need, to be fed, they need to be changed, they need all of these elements. So when we think about those primary, ways that we live, it's really important that even as adults, we still have primary needs and our soul still has needs and our soul still has desires to be able to feel valued, heard, loved, seen, have identity, feel safety. Those are crucial elements to who we are. And if we don't feel that, it's very hard to open up into a space
Mm.
or a territory that we've never navigated through or we've never been shown that it's okay to express your emotional body. You're safe here. This is your safe haven. You're allowed to speak. Your voice matters. All of these elements come into that connection point to say that actually you do matter. So whatever you are holding on to, and it doesn't mean that the sadness is because their voice wasn't heard, but voices not being heard and undergoing like child abuse or going through abuse as in a relationship, again, your voice isn't being heard. You're being devalued. Again, it comes back to those foundational pieces that your soul desires. And those are 7 desires that it needs foundationally, just like a baby needs their foundational aspects to actually be in survival.
Ooh, tell us, what's the 7 desires that we need?
So safety is one of them.
Yeah.
Identity is the other. Security is different. So security is not actually safety. Security is security within themselves. So having it's like a level of confidence, but not, not arrogance, not anything of that nature, but the confidence to be themselves,
Yeah.
right? To so many people lack the confidence, not about self-esteem. It's about the confidence to actually be who they are and to feel like they're accepted,
Yeah.
right? Acceptance.
Yeah.
So acceptance is the other piece. Love, obviously, community is a crucial piece, and identity is a massive piece of that. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? The soul craves those answers and wants to yearn for those answers because there's an answer to them. The soul doesn't crave what it does not know to exist, right? So when we think about those aspects, it's really important that we're in those foundational elements of what our souls desires so that we can actually heal to that place.
Yeah, and I know so many people that go through the what is my purpose. And personally, I've been through the what is my purpose many times. And yeah, and I think too, even when you think you know your purpose, the universe is very good at saying, actually, yeah, I know you're getting comfortable there. Let's throw in some spanners for you.
Let's give you another little piece of the puzzle. You're almost there, but the point is to live in purpose, right? It's following those soul whispers. It's following that guidance of where you're feeling that just what you did, right? You left speech language pathology to
Mm.
follow where your soul was directing you because you were listening to your soul's guidance and that happiness, right? That level of peace. Yeah, there's a huge decision to make. We live in a financial world, but to make that shift is really important because you're saying, I acknowledge you. I
Yeah,
hear you.
yeah,
I'm here with you, right? I'm here right with you. And every time we do those actions, we collect another little piece of the puzzle and we're continuously living in purpose. We're consistently elevating. We're consistently coming into higher levels of consciousness when we choose to hear outside of ourselves and to hear within ourselves, when our soul is whispering to us and saying, "Psst, over here, what about this? Are you interested in this?" And every pathway we have a choice to say yes or no.
yeah. And I think that's such an important point that you bring up, Roxanne, that we do have a choice. It's always our free will, and it's always our, it's through that divine will that we are able to say, yes, this is the path for me, or no, I'm going to stay on this path. And the universe doesn't judge you for that. It just gives you the opportunities as it's up if you're going to be brave enough and have the courage to go, okay, I'm going to leap and trust that you're going to catch me.
Well, it's like I'm letting you create your life,
Yeah.
right? I'm letting you create your life, and every choice
Mm-hmm.
is subsequent to that, right? So even when we speak, if we want to break this down into, more simpler ways in a relationship, right? We have a choice to step into a relationship with a very ideal partner or with a non-ideal partner, and to learn the experiences from that non-ideal partner that maybe eventually will align us to our ideal partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's all of these elements that we choose, but every choice comes with some teachings and some experiences and some expertise that we're taking the alchemy of that and we're bringing that into our life and we're enriching our life with it. And then we move on to the next choice. Life is a series of choices. Every day we make millions of choices,
Yeah.
right? So every choice, is this in my highest alignment? Is this where I see my path? It's about being very honest and very candid with ourselves on where we actually see the life trajectory and what we actually want to create. If I'm saying I want to create, a very loving environment, and I want to create a very successful business and all of these elements that I want, yet everything that I choose is the polarity of that, well, then I'm not creating the life that I'm being given the countless opportunities to do that. I'm actually denying it. I'm creating that resistance, and I'm saying, actually, I don't deserve that and I don't want it.
Yeah,
It's
and
that.
yeah, and it's almost like that, you got to walk the walk and talk the talk. It's almost that kind of analogy because, and I guess that comes up, I just had that hit then, with authenticity, right? That this is a word that gets thrown around so much, but really I've gone to a few events with like really powerful coaches and leaders and that sort of thing, and they all say the same thing. They said talk is cheap. If you're not actually anchoring in the action and actually doing it, then what's the point? You can be the shoulda coulda wouldas, or you can actually move forward and do it.
If you don't anchor your root to your earth star
Mm.
of creation, right? This is about your centers of intelligence, because your centers of intelligence are actually the communication pathways to the solar universe and the entire omniverse. So it's not about the law of attraction, it's actually about the law of vibration and emanation. So when we are in our centers of intelligence and I am saying that I want this, but I my actions don't follow suit and all of my choices don't follow suit, and my belief structures or my experiences or my expertise that I've not allowed to heal and release and to come to a place of alchemy where I appreciate the experience, that also emanates something. Or if I have something that's rooted into the ancestral lineage of who I am and it's emanating something from my root, it's actually not in a place of creation because it's creating that resistance. So when we go through anything, an experience that was a little bit more of a heavy experience, we hold that into our energy centers. We hold it into our heart space. We hold it into our solar plexus. We hold it into our sacred womb. We hold it into our root. We hold it into our third eye. We hold it into our throat, of how we speak into our voice and how we advocate for ourselves. And if I have something in mind and I want to create something, and I'm saying to my mind is saying, yeah, I'm going to create this. I'm going to create this for my life. But then a sneaky belief system of an experience that I had when I was a child said, no, actually, you can't chase your dreams. This is all you're capable of doing. Then that is coinciding in the communication pathways, as your solar plexus is the direct, almost like an umbilical cord to the solar universe, that is actually emanating that exact information, is creating the exact resistance of what you're looking to emanate and to create into your life. If I'm in my sacred womb and I've had loss of life or a loss of dreams as a man, right? Because they're not creating life, but loss of dreams as a man, because as a sacred womb, a man has a sacred womb, and that's where they create life. That's where they create their dreams. That's where they create all of these elements. But if I have something sitting in that sacred womb that is saying that you can never have this, you're not deserving of that, you've never seen it happen in any of your ancestral lineages, this is not something that you're capable of, your epigenetics say that it's not possible, your DNA says that it's not possible, then the actual belief system of the emanation is actually coming into a place of dissolution, right? It's not actually in agreement. It's not in the congruency. It's in the non-congruency of what you're actually looking to create for your life. And that all comes back into the foundational piece of healing. right? It's healing the centers of intelligence. And that's why it's so important, because it's actually the creation aspect of our life, coming back to that creatrix and that creator energy.
Yeah, and I have a perfect example of this. So when I sold my company, I was like, yeah, we're going to be financially set for a while. I can take time off, because I still contracting on as a speech pathologist. And then all of a sudden, the money was gone. And my husband and I still to this day have no idea what happened to it. But subconsciously, I didn't think I was worthy of it or feel I was worthy of it. And I had that, that ancestral programming of you have to work hard for your money, right? And I'm not saying I didn't, I worked my butt off in that business. But at the same time, it was still there echoing, right? Like you got to work hard for your money. Money doesn't grow on trees. And all those, money stories and those things. And then I had to spend a year unpacking those because I was pushing anything away. And I even said to my boss at the time, he said, I want to make you rich. And I said, I don't want to be rich. And now I go, why would I even say that? And had to unpack all those things. And like you said, even though this money was flowing to me, it didn't have a purpose at that point either. All this money was flowing to me and I was just subconsciously pushing it away.
It's that reverberation, and the money is the highest exchange of value, because that's what we tend as humans, because that's the like epitome of what we survive with, right? So
Yeah.
the energy exchange of the monetary value is so expansive, even though it's either just digital or it's paper, right? In reality of what it is. So when we have this high exchange and this high value, yet the reverberation of what everything that we're saying, that money grows on trees. Money doesn't grow on trees, and you have to work
But it
really hard.
actually does. But yeah.
Yeah, it actually does. It actually does. It's paper,
Yeah.
and all of these elements that were constructed to destabilize us from a place of creation, right? There's no way, no rhyme or reason why the entire world has the exact same saying, as it was created to act as a construct to be able to mitigate the creational aspects of each human being. So when we think about those statements, they're so powerful because our words are the exact vibration and the emanation, and even our thoughts, right? Our thoughts, actions, feelings, all of these elements are vibrational pieces. That's why it's the law of vibration and emanation when we look at the guiding principles of the laws of the universe. That's why it's so crucial, right? So when you come to a place where you feel at calm and at peace, and that you understand what the monetary exchange is, the high value of that frequency, and then you're where you are now to where you were 5 years ago, it's immensely different, because
Yes.
you looked at the shadow aspects of the self. That's not actually my belief system. That was never my belief system. That was instilled in me,
Yeah.
right? That was an instilled belief system that actually isn't my belief system. Why can't money be easily accessed? Why can't money, just be so fluid and come in exactly when I need it? Because it absolutely can, right?
Yeah.
It's an exchange, it's a
Yeah.
vibrational exchange. So when we think about, the ancestral piece, and we think about our epigenetics, our epigenetics are the only DNA molecule structures that are actually malleable. They're actually changeable. So when we change and we have, we go through healing through our ancestors, we don't just heal the last 7 generations, we heal thousands of generations behind us and thousands of generations ahead of us, because we're creating a new epigenetic pathway.
And I love you brought up epigenetics. It's my jam. But but I guess that's when I work with people's DNA energetically. It's so hard to explain it to people because getting their head around, first of all, that it's changeable, like you said, it's actually not a fixed structure because it's all energy, it's all energy connections. And, and that's why often people will come, but, um, my brother eats horribly and he's okay. And why am I so unwell when I eat, really good food and I drink lots of water and I do healthy things? But then they've gone through a lot more stresses or had a different emotional experience or traumas compared to the brother. So their different genes have been activated to create those scenarios. So it's all changeable. And I think that's such a powerful message we can share, that just because you're having an experience on the health front doesn't mean you're fixed. You can search more for more answers and go further in and find different people to help you, then you'll get different outcomes as well.
Absolutely. So, when we do this body of work, it's to understand that we're not just of cellular disposition, we're actually of cellular disposition. We are made of energy, we're energetic frequency, we are electromagnetic beings. We are vibration. Without soul essence, we do not have life, right? So when we understand that the biggest disposition and composition of what we're made of is actually cellular energy, is actually the cellular complex, because without the cellular complex, we don't have a cellular host, we don't have a human body, right? So it's important to be able to understand and to differentiate that when we are healing, a lot of the imprintations that happen at the epigenetic pathways are those that are malleable and that they're changeable because it's an imprint. It's a created imprint. It's a created DNA structure, but it's not a DNA structure. It's an epigenetic structure. So when we think about those aspects, is to understand that we are so unbelievably powerful. We are so unbelievably capable of healing ourselves. Again, that's not curing, it's coming to a place of healing and surrendering and releasing, right? When we have autoimmune diseases, we have mental health issues. These are all places that there's something rooted within the cellular field. It would have had to enter your energetic field in order to even be present within the emotional, physical, or intellectual body.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's when you can take acceptance from that too. And what I've learned too is the when you aren't in a chronic stress or in a chronic situation or in tragedy, and you have the peace, I guess, or you feel there's the calm, that is when you need to do the most work, because that is where you can truly unpack things from that. Again, coming back to that safety element, right? Because you feel safer in that moment, so you can be more vulnerable and you can go into your shadows and go into your triggers and go into all these things that keep coming up for you, and then allow yourself to heal those and shift those and change them from that vibration standpoint. So then when you do go into that crises mode, because life likes to give us crises, it's how we grow, it's fine, it's a lot more manageable because you've already done all the work before that point, not gone into the crisis and gone, oh, maybe I should have done X, Y, and Z too before I actually got here.
We get to a place of emotional regulation where we understand that we actually regulate our inner peace.
Yeah.
And every time that we give our inner peace, we're giving away our inner power. So doesn't matter if it's a situation, doesn't matter if it's a family dynamic. Every time that we give a piece of our emotional regulation, we're giving a piece of our peace away.
Yeah.
When we give our peace away, we're coming from a place of disempowerment instead of empowerment. And as you learn the mastery of that refinement, and as you go through years of your own stewardship, of your own self knowing, and your own self surrendering, it's about coming back to that place no matter what happens, what life event happens. Yes, there's always going to be, events that are going to happen in life. That's why we came here. We came to experience the multidimensional body. We came here to grow and elevate into our own consciousness in this multidimensional physical aspect of who we are. So when we are living in this congruency of who we are, it's also really important to understand that in the element, right, when we think about healing and we think about, the quiet moments, it's also really important to understand that if something is taking me out of this place of inner peace or inner stillment, the question is not what did they do? The question is what is within me that's evoking, that is actually allowing or permitting that to actually be the transaction, right? So when we come to that place of knowing that, in my life, I have a lot of multitude of things that are very heavy that are happening in my life right now, but at the end of the day, I still keep my calmness, I still keep my inner peace, I come back to my place of center. Doesn't mean that we come off keen sometimes, but it's about coming back to that place of being centered. It's that point zero place of being in inner stillment, inner fulfillment, inner love, all of these places of inner acceptability. And it's the awareness piece. When we're on a healing journey, it's what are we aware of? What are we consciously noticing? What are we being activated? What are we being triggering? How do we accept that? Right? How do we accept that? What do we need to accept? What do we need to relinquish? It's all about the acceptability, the awareness, the action, the soft action. What do I need to do? Sometimes I don't need to do anything. Sometimes I just need to be in the emotionality of it. Or sometimes I just need to be in the presence of it as an acknowledgement piece, because the acknowledgement is where the shift transpires.
Yeah, and it's that acceptance piece, 100%, that it's often people miss, because when we can accept we are where we are and that we're whole, we're not broken, right? We're whole and we can choose to
Never
change.
broken.
Yeah, we're never broken. That's right. And we can definitely sit in that acceptance of that, because you can't heal a body you hate, you can't fix a relationship you don't want, you can't attract wealth if you think, coming from a scarcity mindset. So there's all these things, but when you accept that you're whole, that's when you can truly start to see those changes in your life and start to shift.
When we're healing in lack, fear, and scarcity, in a place of self deprecation, where we look at ourselves and tell ourselves in the mirror that we're not good enough, or we pick out every flaw that we have within ourselves because we are unable to demonstrate how much love we have for ourselves because we've lost that along the way, because that has been unacceptable along the way. It's never been strongly encouraged for us to fully embrace ourselves, to fully love ourselves. I'm not speaking about the ego. I'm not speaking about the arrogance. I'm speaking about the just is, right? The just is the loving of the unconditionality of who we are as spiritual beings, as soul essence, and as human beings, and why we chose the avatar that we've chosen. And when we come to that place of acceptability, it's accepting all of us, and not I accept my mind, I accept my spiritual side, but I don't accept my body, and I don't accept this, and I don't, right? There's a lot of that degree of
Selection.
separation where we're not coming back to that place of cohesiveness. We're not coming back to that place of instillment.
Yeah, and I love how you said that, because it isn't about just picking and choosing what you want to like about yourself. It's truly about loving every part of yourself, every being, every layer, every auric field, every, whatever resonates with you. It's truly about loving and accepting that, because love isn't always that romantic notion that we've been conditioned to believe. It's actually loving the nitty-gritty and loving the horrible things too.
Yeah, and I always say, like, the most beautiful love story is when you fall completely in love with yourself and your soul, right? Like, that's the most beautiful love story that I've ever heard in doing stewardship for almost 20 years, is that when somebody has that realization and that transformation of understanding the neglect that they've given themselves just through their own, through their own processing and introspection and self, assessment within themselves, coming back to that place and saying, "Oh my goodness," like, and the tears that roll down your face saying that I deeply love you and I'm so sorry. I forgive you. That whole piece is transforming, because you're acknowledging the awareness of why you actually chose to to come here and exactly have these exact experiences in every multidimensional way, right? Not just in the physical.
And I feel such a powerful practice is, it's actually funny because we don't have mirrors, but if you can get a mirror or put your phone on selfie mode and actually look at yourself and genuinely tell yourself that I love you, and evoking that emotions within yourself, it can be such a powerful practice to do, and it doesn't take very long. You can just spend a few minutes in the start of your day, and that practice alone is going to shift your worth and what your value is about yourself. And it's truly letting your body and your subconscious and all those, energy levels know that you do love yourself. And then you can get some real inspirational change happening from there.
Yeah, and the forgiving piece is not about like you did something catastrophic. It's how you actually treated yourself, right? It's what you chose for yourself, the things that you devalued yourself on, the things that you could have chosen a different alignment if you would have been in a place that you really would have loved yourself. And it's not about coulda, shoulda, would have in that situation of coming back into what ifs. It's coming back to that place and saying, I acknowledge, right? The acknowledgement piece. I accept. I love you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. Thank you. Like, thank you for being here. And when people start doing that to their body, just naturally, the physical reaction that happens within the body is powerful, because the soul hasn't heard it, right? The soul hasn't heard the scripture. And the scripture is so important because we tell everybody around us that we love them, that we're proud of them, that we're this, that we're that, as nurturers, as empath, as people that just love other people, yet we forget to actually turn that inward.
And really acknowledge ourselves, definitely. So, Roxanne, as we finish our time together, I asked my guests if they could heal or change something in the world just to, create whatever. What would it be?
I would say I would love to heal so many aspects where they can come back to a self realization that they are beyond powerful and that they are beyond limitless. And when we are limitless and we realize that there is no barricade, there is no glass ceiling, there is none of that nature, we realize actually the power in which we are.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. So, thank you for your time. If people want to connect with you, Roxanne, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. They can find me through, I have no social medias. That's intentional, through the illuminationretreat.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, for sharing all that insights. I feel we could keep talking, but I'm very conscious that we need to round up our time together. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Catherine, for having me. It was such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show note. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.